Alright boys, welcome back to JJDL Week 1 versus Spider, who you can check out in the top right hand corner or down in the description below, as well as all of the other JJDL coaches. Please check everybody out this season. If you missed it, I'm going to be doing watch along streams every Sunday, so be sure to tune into that as well. For this season, I'm going back to doing no mocks because I think that I would rather just overthink. The last 2 seasons have went very poorly, obviously, so I'm going to go back to doing no mocks. I'm going to go back to my roots and see how I do. Excuse me if I'm like nasally or if my thought process isn't great. I feel horrible. I don't know how I keep getting sick, but I do, and here we are. If you missed the draft analysis, be sure to check it out in the top right hand corner. But before all that, only 47% of the people that watch my videos are subscribed. If you are not subscribed, go ahead and do it, man. It's free and it helps us out a ton. Let's go ahead and jump into our team though. We have Terra, Raging Bolt, Ursaluna Blood Moon, Iron Hands, Rillaboom, Mew, Iron Jugulis, Blastoise, Orthworm, and Terra Wigglytuff. Spider has Sneasler, Gliscor, Heatran, Sylveon, Hydreigon, Terra Espeon, NDD, Tentacruel, Terra, Mamoswine, and Abomasnow. So the main thing that you'll notice is he doesn't have a top tier Terra. Instead, he has 2 low to mid tier Terra captains. This is really bad for us. We actually match up super poorly into both of these Pokemon depending on what he brings. We're doing free Terra preview this season, unfortunately, something I'm not super comfortable with. And both of these mons gave me an absolute headache in prep. I overthought everything. There are 19 different types that these guys can be, and it's hard to pin one down. So to start with Mamoswine, Mamoswine's a Pokemon that, in my opinion, because I have Orthworm, it should be Terra Fire. If it's not, and he hard reads that I will not bring Orthworm because it does very, very bad in the matchup, he can be Terra Ground, and if he's Terra Ground, he destroys me. The combination of Ground and Ice Stab is very bad. Ice Shard hits all of my Pokemon that are faster than it, pretty much all of them, for super effective damage. The only mon that can kind of chew is Mew, and it's not really capable of doing a ton back. So I think he'll be Terra Fire. He could just be Terra Ground, or he could be Terra Grass. I think Fire and Grass make a lot of sense. Fire because it hits Orthworm and he can't be Will-O-Wisp. Grass because he resists Grassy Glide and he's able to hit the Blastoise. And then Ground if he just doesn't respect me at all and he wants to absolutely ruin my day if I don't bring Orthworm. As for his other Terra Captain, Terra Espeon, I highly anticipate Terra Fairy in this matchup. I don't really think there's room to be anything else. If there is, it's Terra Fighting. And if he's Terra Fighting into the build that we're bringing, we're going to lose pretty immediately. It's going to be pretty brutal. I think Terra Fairy makes a ton of sense. Alluring Voice plus Psychic, super tough for my team to deal with, and he could just throw on like Focus Blast, but I think he's going to be dual stabs in that instance, Calm Mind and Morning Sun. I don't think there's a lot of room for creativity there. He could just be Calm Mind 3 attacks with Terra Fighting though, and ruin my day, because I don't have any counterplay to that whatsoever with the team that we're bringing. I hate free Terra. I hate it so much. This matchup specifically has hammered down why I hate free Terra. I do very bad against both of these Pokemon, and it's not going to be fun. Outside of that though, Sneasler does give us a little bit of trouble. We have Iron Hands, which can kind of check it, but we don't have a Poison type, which isn't great into Sneasler, and we don't have a Ghost type, which isn't great into Sneasler. It also has a really good speed tier into us, and while we do have counterplay and we have stuff like Mew and Iron Hands to take hits, Iron Jugulis to potentially outspeed with the booster, it does give us a little bit of a hard time. Gliscor could definitely come. Ground does pretty good into my team, and so does Spikes in general, but he doesn't have any way to block my Blastoise from spinning and doesn't deal with Blastoise the best, so I'm not super confident he's going to bring Gliscor. Heatran's another Pokemon that I'm not super confident he's going to bring, but he could bring some sort of a Spud Def Heatran for my Raging Bolt. He could be Roar for the Calm Mind sets. I think that could make a lot of sense. Sylveon's difficult for the team that I am bringing to break, but Sylveon, it's just kind of wish spot in this matchup. It doesn't do super well, but I could definitely see it coming, and if it comes, I think it makes a lot of sense. Hydreigon destroys me. My Fairy is Wigglytuff, and he can U-turn on that and get into something to put him in an advantageous position all day. So I see no universe in which Hydreigon does not come. As for the set he could be Specs, he could be Scarf. I think Specs is a little bit more likely because of my speed tiers, or he could be something like Boots Plot. Indeedee, if he wants to spam Psychic Terrain like Espeon Expanding Force, Espeon, who cares? If he wants to spam Espeon Expanding Force, it could be a little bit problematic, but I have Rillaboom to overwrite the terrain, so I'm not super confident that he will do that. Tentacruel is good, it lets him spin, and I have a lot of stacks, so I do think Tentacruel does come. And then Abomasnow, I don't really think comes. I think Abomasnow is kind of weird on the team anyway, because once he Terras Mamoswine, he loses the ice buff, so I don't know, and we have lots of ways to prevent Aurora Veil. We have lots of Brick Break users, lots of Taunt users. I don't necessarily think Abomasnow comes. So the 6 that I think come are going to be Sneasler, Gliscor, Sylveon, Hydreigon, Tentacruel, and then one of Espeon and Mamoswine, whichever one he wants to Terra, or he could just throw away Sylveon, throw away Gliscor, and bring both of them and Terra whichever one he decides to put me in a bad position, because both Pokemon do kind of well otherwise. As far as the team that we're bringing, I went through a lot as far as what Pokemon we are bringing. We went through so many different variations of this team. We had a lot of different stuff. I'm not going to dive super deep into what we did not bring, but we ended up with a pretty cool team. The whole point of this team is going to be Trick Room, so our first Pokemon is going to be our Trick Room setter. It's going to be Blue the Mew. We're going to be a guaranteed lead. We're Trick Room, Taunt, U-Turn, and Surf with the Colbur Berry. I went through a lot of different sets on this Mew. I had Triple Axle, I had Taunt, I had Will-O-Wisp, I had Spikes. So I had 7 different moves on this Mew. Say that 10 times fast. And we ultimately decided on this. Trick Room, I think, is super good into his team. Our team is just objectively very slow, and we can really take advantage of it in a matchup like this, where something like Ursaluna Blood Moon does not have a switch in. We can Trick Room, we can U-turn, and we can go into Ursaluna and start picking off KOs. Taunt is to prevent Spikes on Gliscor as well as Aurora Veil from the Abomasnow. I also had Will-O-Wisp for a little bit to burn that potential lead Gliscor, but if he's Terra Fire Mamoswine, which I think is very likely, then that's kind of a wasted move slot. So we went with Taunt, we went with U-turn because slow U-turns in Trick Room I think is going to be very crucial to get into Ursaluna Blood Moon for free and do a ton of damage because we outspeed everything not Sneasler and Espeon as well. And then Surf, because Water Stab does very well into his team, and the things that it doesn't do well into, we can U-turn on, and we can get into good positions otherwise. We're Colbur Berry, so the really only thing that can stop us on lead from getting this Trick Room off is going to be the Hydreigon with Taunt, and if he doesn't have Taunt, we're able to get that off and do a lot of damage with our Pokemon in the back. We have 36 HP, 64 attack, 168 special defense, and 240 speed. Timid. It's weird to have a speedy Mew in Trick Room, but it is just so we get slow U-turns to get into our actual damaging Pokemon for free. The speed lets us outspeed everything that we can, specifically the Hydreigon, and we can live a Specs modest Hydreigon Draco, so nothing upon lead should be able to OHKO us ever. We can take 2 Sneasler U-turns, and then we went the rest into special attack so we can do actual damage with our Surf. Mew's here to set Trick Room. It's kind of just a Trick Room bot, and it's here to clean up KOs on stuff like the Mamoswine. Our next Pokemon is going to be primarily the Wincon. We're going to have Cuddles the Ursaluna Bad Manners this week with the Chople Berry for that Sneasler. This Pokemon is very difficult for our opponent to deal with. Dual Stabs is something that our opponent does not switch in at all. We have Moonlight plus Calm Mind to recover, and Calm Mind in the face of his mini special attackers, and then Blood Moon plus Earth Power. We're really never clicking Blood Moon twice in a row anyway. We can just kind of Moonlight in the face of something else, so I did that over Hyper Voice, obviously, to have as much damage as possible. And then Earth Power hits the normal resist, Heatran. We're going to be extremely bulky, which is something that I battled back and forth with myself for a little bit, since this is our immediate breaker in Trick Room, but I think we can get a Calm Mind up pretty reliably, so I'm okay with that. We're 32 HP, 236 defense, 28 special attack modest, and 212 special defense. We can take 2 flamethrowers from max special attack Timid Heatran. We can take an Adamant Life Orb Mamoswine Icicle Crash after 1 spike, and then we went the rest into special attack modest. This is primarily our win con. This is how we're going to try to win the game, at least how we're going to try to break early on, but ultimately I do think that this is going to be the thing that puts us in the best position to win the game. Trick Room is nice for this, but not necessary because of how overwhelmingly bulky we are this week. Our next Pokemon is going to be Uncle Mike 2.0, the Sneasler check. Uncle Mike is very important here. 1, he has to beat the allegations, but 2, he is here because we don't really have a natural switch into Sneasler as far as typings go, but Uncle Mike has fantastic physical defensive stats, allowing us to actually switch into that Pokemon. If he's banded, it's a different story. That Mon really puts the hurt on us, but then we can pivot into Mew pretty freely. We're going to be Covert Cloak to avoid those pesky little Dire Claws, and then we're going to be Swords Dance 3 attacks with Drain Punch, Ice Punch, and Earthquake. Drain Punch for general stab and recovery, Ice Punch for the Gliscor, Earthquake for the Sneasler. We're going to be 16 attack Adamant with 232 defense, 132 special defense, and 128 speed. We can take a +2 Adamant Sneasler close combat after a spike, or an Adamant Mamoswine Earthquake after rocks. We can outspeed the Sylveon, creeping the Earthworm, which is pretty nice. We can get a Swords Dance up and attack it and do some major damage. And we can take 2 Hydreigon Draco Meteors after rocks, and with the rest into attack Adamant. Iron Hands, as per usual, is like a Swiss Army knife. He's very important in this matchup because he can be used to trade pretty much 1-for-1 for anything, but his primary purpose is going to be here for the Sneasler. If he doesn't bring Sneasler for whatever reason, or we deal with the Sneasler, we can be a little bit more lenient with what we use Uncle Mike for, and we can honestly switch him in on a lot of different things very, very freely. Next up, we're going to have a Spadef Raging Bolt Braiku. The Raging Bolt, he's going to be Terra Steel this week. I bounced between so many different Terra types. I tested. I had a team with Poison, I had a team with Ghost, I had a team with Fairy, I had a team with Water. This is my 5th Terra type that I decided on, and it's what we're going with, because this is here because we have no answer for Terra, Fairy, Sylveon, Terra, Fairy, Sylveon, Terra, Fairy, Espeon otherwise. And if he's Terra Fighting, we lose. We don't really have any counterplay to it. But this helps with not only that, but also the Hydreigon that we very much so struggle with otherwise. He can Earth Power, but we can chew that pretty easily because we are extremely Spadef and take our KO with Draco Meteor. We're going to be Taunt plus Calm Mind. Taunt is here just so the Taunt helps versus a lot of things. It lets the Sylveon not Calm Mind on us. It lets the Heatran not roar us, as well as taunt us himself so we can't Calm Mind. And it lets the Espeon not continually Calm Mind so we can Calm Mind up and do massive damage with either Draco or Thunderclap, whatever the case may be. We're going to be 220 HP, 4 special attack, modest, 248 special defense, and 36 speed. Primarily just special defense. We can outspeed Heatran, creeping a 4-speed Blastoise. I believe that's 12-speed Heatran. We went primarily special defense. I actually didn't write down what the calc was for, but I'm sure it was for something in particular. And then we went 4 into special attack modest. This is also a potential late game win con with Calm Mind plus Thunderclap and Draco Meteor. Calm Mind makes this Pokemon extremely fat and extremely hard for our opponent to deal with outside of his physical threats, which we can just spam Thunderclap on like Sneasler. We can prevent that Pokemon from ever doing a ton of damage to us. The main problem with this Pokemon is going to be Gliscor if he does bring it. Next up, we're going to have Iron Jugulis with the booster energy for that booster speed to outspeed the Sneasler if he does not have that Unburden boost. Kind of just like a safety net against the Sneasler is why this guy is here. And this is the Pokemon that I'm the least sold on. I bounced around with Wigglytuff and Orthworm in this slot, but both of those Pokemon are not very good. So we decided on this set with Taunt, Work Up, Hurricane, and Earth Power because Flying and Ground Stab has no switch-ins on our opponent's side of the field, and Work Up gives us another potential late game win con. Taunt prevent things like Calm Mind Sylveon, Calm Mind Espeon, prevents Aurora Veil on the Abomasnow. It prevents a lot of different things, and I really like Taunt on this. The stats are 8 HP, 44 defense, 176 special attack, 104 special defense, and 176 speed timid. We're enough speed to outspeed the Hydreigon with enough special attack to have as much as we can while still getting the booster speed. We live a Terra Fairy, Espeon, Alluring Voice, and then we went the rest into defense. Like I said, Jugu's main purpose here is going to be a safety net for that Sneasler, but it can also be a potential late game win con. And then lastly, we're going to have Blastoise, who's going to be primarily here for both the Heatran as well as to be a spinner. We're going to be Boots. Boots are very important because T-Spikes are tough into our team, and us being Boots obviously prevents us from taking the toxic spikes. Rapid Spin for a removal because our opponent does have very good stack on their side of the field. We have Flip Turn for momentum because there's easy switch-ins into this like Abomasnow and Hydreigon. Liquidation to hit the Espeon as hard as possible, which is why we're Liquidation and not Surf. And then Earthquake because I actually enjoy beating Tentacruel with this set. So Tentacruel gives us a little bit of a problem. So we are Earthquake over something like Aqua Jet or Roar, which were two things that I definitely considered. We're 8 HP, 64 attack, 168 defense Impish, with 116 special defense and 152 speed. We can take 2 non-Life Orb, non-Adamant Mamoswine Earthquakes. We can outspeed the 12-speed Gliscor, which I'm not entirely sure if it's worth it, but we're here now. We live 2 Espeon Psychics, and then we went the remaining EVs in the attack. Blastoise is here to spin in circles, man. And that's going to be the team. The way we win with this team is Trick Room early and take away his pieces with Earth, Luna, Blood Moon as quickly as we can. And then we have Raging Bolt as well as Iron Jugulis to potentially help us win in the in-game, as well as Iron Hands. We have Mew, Trick Room plus Setup Spam. I think it does very well into our opponent's team. It's very difficult for them to deal with. The way that we lose this is by not being able to deal with their threats, with Sneasler, Espeon, and Mamoswine specifically. Those 3 Pokemon give us some very big problems. Be sure to check out Spider and all of the other JJDL coaches down below. I'm going to go ahead and get connected with Spider and play this week 1 match. Thank you guys so much for watching. And for now, guys, this has been John Jr. signing off. We had a lot of different stuff. I'm not going to dive super deep into what we did not bring, but